It's me. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director here in the UK for a company called MagPlus. We're going to be setting off this session. I'm doing the initial sort of keynote in here. Going to be handing on to John from Caldor Group, who's going to infuse you with the joys of HTML5 and other interactive capabilities and taking content and repurposing it into apps. And then we have the great pleasure of having Mick Moore here from Incisive Media. So just to give you an idea, Incisive produce multiple titles in the UK and across Europe, one of them being British Journal of Photography, and they were one of the award-winning titles this year on iTunes. Basically, certainly one great merit. So we'll be able to take it from a publisher's point of view. Now I'm going to be judge, jury and executioner because I am also chairing the session, so we're going to have the three presentations and then chance for a chat afterwards. I will ask you all, if we look like we're going to go over 10 minutes, to start throwing things in order for us to get off the stand and give our colleagues a chance to have a chat, but also you, more importantly, a chance to ask questions. With that, quick sort of overview, basically. I'm going to kick it off with setting the idea, but I'll ask you a question first. So who's publishing today to a tablet? Quick show of hands. Wow, that's not very impressive. Who wants to be publishing today to a tablet? Okay, that's slightly more. The rest of you had nowhere to eat your lunch or what? I mean, I have no idea what you're doing here, but I'll give you a perspective also from my side of things. I also run another company in the UK called Nick Software, and we this year, well last year rather, halfway through the year, launched a product called Snapseed, which was actually voted the #1 app in the States at the end of the year for 2011 by Apple. So I'll give you an idea of the potential here. We launched that app, and I obviously have the joys of being an ex-Apple employee, so therefore managed to leverage a bit of internal kudos to get us listed as App of the Week within 4 days of launch of that app. Within the first weekend, we were the #1 download across Europe. At Christmas, we also partook in the 12 Days of Christmas promotion with Apple. By the end of that, we had about 5 million users out there. So that's within 6 months. So there's certainly potential here, folks, to be looking at this. But anyway, let me kick into my 10 minutes now and give you a run through of where we're coming from. Talk to my old boss. Hopefully he's got sound on there, otherwise it'd be quiet.
And of all the features the magazine's out there, Popular Science is good. These guys did some really great things, and you haven't seen it. We'll take a look.
So this is where it all began. This is back in April 2010 when the iPad was launched, and Popular Science was pretty much the first title out there that even Mr. Jobs waved at and said, look at this is something groundbreaking. This was back in 2010, so a long while ago now, and if you guys aren't out there publishing already, then you're playing catch up. But the good thing is, Popular Science is produced by Bonnier. It's produced using MagPlus's tools, because MagPlus is a wholly owned subsidiary, or a company spun out of Bonnier basically. So therefore Bonnier is this great international, multinational publisher. So I'm talking really today more from a perspective of a publisher to give you an insight into where we're going from. You can also ask me questions later on, perhaps from an Apple perspective or from a software development perspective. But I really want to give you the idea of what is out there as far as potential for you guys are concerned. In particular, just to frame the marketplace at the moment. I mean, this year in worldwide sales of tablets, JP Morgan is suggesting there's going to be nearly 100 million, 99.3 million tablets sold. 0.3 obviously very important there. Next year, 132.6 million tablets sold. So loads of tablets going out there. We know that for a fact. It's obviously quite an important marketplace to be in. Kindle Fire, definitely something to be keeping an eye on as well, because that's coming up very quickly into the marketplace, not even available here. But of course, good old Apple, my old firm, it's definitely winning this sway out there. It's definitely basically still keeping its head above the rest of the players. In fact, it's in the PC marketplace, it's obviously running up the ratings as far as PC manufacturers are concerned. But definitely on the tablet side of things, it is still the #1 device to be aiming for as we speak. You know, this is supposed to be about best practice. So best practice, best advice to you guys today is, if you want to be producing something for a tablet, which I hope all of you do in some form or another, then realistically that's the first and foremost tablet you ought to be aiming for, because it's got the market share. To give you a bit of an idea of who's out there as well, we're seeing stats that are suggesting, okay, for want of a better word, the greying pound, of which I'm almost approaching myself nowadays, is definitely a growing marketplace to be aiming for. So the 55 plus brackets are therefore something you ought to be affecting your judgment with. But more importantly, if we're looking at these tablet devices here, is it worthwhile? Yes. You know, there are people using their tablets now. They're using it more perhaps than they would be TV, in fact, nowadays. You know, there's definitely a sway towards tablet as being the device to consume media, whatever that media is, whether it's a photo retouching app called Snapseed, or whether it's a publication from any of the publishers like The Week or BJP, then, you know, it's definitely a platform you should be considering. It has the advantage of being a platform that you can deliver to and actually charge to get delivered to, rather than giving away those assets for free on the web there. We've got, basically, we've got 71% of tablet owners are interested in reading magazines, so therefore that should be something should be framing your judgment as well. It isn't a case that we've got millions of people buying tablets and then, oh, well, I'll just use it for retouching, I'll just use it for social media. Absolutely, it's something that's driving interest in the magazine consumption, the printed page as was consumption, so be it magazines, newspapers, etc., etc. So we're also seeing what's compelling out there is having compelling content. If I can click on an ad, if it's something that's actually driving my interest, absolutely that's going to drive more interest for you as far as production is concerned. And likewise, if you can personalize that content, if you can make sure that what you're doing is actually more specific to your readers, to your interested viewers, to your consumers, that is a good place to go to. Let's say I'm really just trying to give you a bit of background information here, then I'll give you a bit of inside information as far as what's been going on at Bonnier in our titles to again help you figure out, is this a marketplace for me or not? Fundamentally, nice survey here by AdMob, but basically it's saying, look, this is something that if you don't make it compelling, you aren't going to get the interest. You need to differentiate out from the printed page. Therefore, my suggestion to you would be, don't just go into the land of page turning. Actually put something in there that is interactive, that is driving interest. Video, HTML, interactive content of some description or another. So therefore, we would suggest that's the way to go. Now, from a Mag Plus point of view, a Bonnier point of view, we've got a whole bunch of titles that we're already publishing out there. Some of them are ours, some of them are others. For instance, we've got Ernst & Young, for instance, taking the metric outside the normal publishing environment and saying, okay, we want to be delivering information for our readers, our consumers, our companies that we work with on an internal corporate basis. We've got a whole bunch of different publishers that are coming across and saying, yeah, okay, now's the time to do it. But let me give you some stats as far as this one is concerned. That's Popular Science. So this is the one that Steve Jobs started off the presentation by saying, this is something you should watch, back in 2010. Yeah, it's certainly something you should watch because it's really been setting the pace out there as far as publishing on tablets is concerned. Now, in particular on the iPad, but you know, we did launch back in 2010. We launched our Android version. Did anybody get an Android version? Anybody got an Android tablet? That's the sort of reaction I was expecting. So returning to my earlier comment, yeah, definitely iPad still the place to be in. Now, we were very lucky in as much as because of that close relationship we have with Apple. You know, most of the Mag Plus team are ex-Apple. We got our publications into the app stores in the States. You know, that was all very nice and very good for us. But definitely producing something different, something compelling, is the key to any form of interest. Be it from your readers, be it from partners like Apple, like Google. You know, try and differentiate yourself out, because how else are you going to say to your customers, if they're currently reading titles you produce in print, why would you want to pay for just a rehash that is the same thing again in a digital format? That isn't sense. Differentiate your way into this. Go for something that is actually going to be compelling content. So where did Popular Science go? It went into the joys of being App of the Year as well. It's been Digital Magazine of the Year. So these are US accolades, but then again it's more popular in the US. But to give you an idea of where we are on readership-wise with Popular Science, we're nearly 60,000 cumulative subscribers through Newsstand. Not just readers, 60,000 cumulative subscribers through Newsstand. Recurring revenue. We've done that by making it different from the print side of things. So therefore it's driven the interest. Therefore it's justified, why should I subscribe to a digital version, a digital edition, as well as a print edition? Same sort of metrics. We're looking at popular photography, another one of the Bonnier titles that we produce, or the MagPlus software is being used for. 30,000 subscribers through Newsstand. So it's not just a one-offs. We don't just happen to have the oldest magazine out there. We've also got a lot of other titles on there. In fact, I'm sure Mick will be telling you what his readership's like as far as BJP is concerned. And likewise, single edition copies. It's just going ballistic, basically. Now, in the States, we're obviously putting our deliveries onto different platforms like Nook, like Zinio as well. That's all working for us. It's all adding up into this number of monthly downloads. But the key things for you guys, well, I hope anyway, otherwise you're in the wrong site, in the wrong session. 97% of our readers of the digital editions are new to us. Not just a case of existing print readers that have now gone onto the digital version. Only 2.1% are that. We've got 97.9% new readers. We've also got this lovely thing, due to the joys of Apple and iTunes, the opportunity for those readers to actually tell us about themselves, far more than we ever had with any print-based solution. They can click an allow button, we can get details about them. So we know more about them. Of course, built into our solution on the MagPlus software, we've also got analytics and so on. They give you a whole bunch of different information, how often it's read, where it's read, etc., etc., what adverts are working, what isn't. So, I'm running out of time very quickly. I've got a minute to go. So what's worked for us? Make it compelling, folks. Differentiate yourself out. Use the fact that it's designed to go on a tablet, use that as a means of delivering it. And absolutely create a solution. What we wanted to do, we've created a solution. It's an InDesign plugin that goes into InDesign and it makes it easy to produce that solution. Effectively, that's how it works. There's your InDesign solution. Go to magplus.com. You can download the free MagPlus plugin. It's free. Keep it for as long as you want, folks, and have a go. Stick it into InDesign. Start following the tutorials on our website and see how to deliver that. Magplus.com. You also get the production tool, which essentially allows you to lay those designs for individual pages out and flat plan them together. Then you can proof them directly to your iPad or to your tablet. Again, if you're on the same Wi-Fi, it's all free, it's all there. You need to have a copy of InDesign, but our stuff's free. Only at the point where you want to publish or you want to start getting information back, do you have to pay us. Come and have a chat with us on the stand next door, the other side of that wall, C23, if you want to find out what we charge. This is the end sort of result. I'm sure Mick will show you more about how this works, but it's not just a page turner. We're building in here a whole bunch of interactive content, compelling content. I'm running out of my time. In fact, I'm 20 seconds over. I apologise to the other two guys. Hopefully they won't do the same, but hey, I was supposed to be keynoting here as well. You'll have plenty of chance to talk to me afterwards about it. Don't forget, I'll leave you with a thought that you can go outside of just the standard publishing side of things. You can absolutely go into the joys of internal publishing. You can be set up for use internally, internal communications, external communications. Come and have a chat with us afterwards or ask us questions. I'll leave you with reminding you of that website there and say, John, would you like to come over, dear boy? And we'll have a listen to John as far as the joys of Caldor Group. Thank you very much, folks. We'll catch me in a bit.
So I'm actually presenting off an iPad, so apologies if the cable falls out because it's a bit flaky sometimes. So very quickly, just something about my background. You can find me on Twitter where I spend a lot of my time, but with caution. I used to blog a lot, but not so much anymore because NDAs got in the way. And I spent most of my life in agencies, so actually doing non-traditional publishing things, more back-end content management. But then I left the agency world to go to News Corporation to lead the tech on the coolest project ever. It was going to change the industry, save publishing, all of that. We grew from 2 people to 120 odd in about 6 months. And then we got the chop and went swiftly back down again to not very many. But we learned a lot, and out of that, we started a new company which is focusing on HTML publishing for tablets, primarily this, but others as well. So we learned something. but that's not about me. It's about the iPad. It is also a bit about Android. You saw the stats. Android is actually starting to matter. The Kindle Fire is getting a bit of a dent, and particularly in non-traditional publishing, so education, that kind of sector, Android is starting to matter more and more. But according to the research we see, for at least the next 2, 3, 4 years, iOS is going to be dominant, but it's definitely worth looking at Android. There's actually a chance that Windows might become relevant. All of the cool kids are in Barcelona at the moment at Mobile World Congress, and there's actually good reports from Nokia, so that's actually something to watch. Just something on iOS, you either love Apple or hate Apple. If you're going to be in Apple's platform, you have to play by their rules, their financial decisions to make. Some people hate the fact they're going to take your revenue, but our view is you sort of have to run with it. The downside is the rules change as well. What you can do today, you can't do tomorrow. So best practice is be prepared to change everything if some whim at Apple changes everything. We're here to talk mainly about publishing apps. And again, our background is, for the last few years, traditional publishing, so books, magazines, newspapers. But as Richard was saying, there's more and more in the non-traditional publishing space. So internal comms, equipping your sales force, e-detailing, anything that traditionally had a big stack of paper can and will be replaced by this in the next few years. So I'm just going to talk quickly about some of the main challenges when you're writing a content app. I'm going to go through it really quickly, and hopefully we have time to chat about it afterwards. Layout is the first big challenge. How do you lay things out? At the moment, the vast majority of publishers will lay out using InDesign. We believe the future is HTML. The dream is InDesign to HTML, which is a really hard problem. Adobe's working really hard to solve it, and the chances are someone, probably them, is going to solve it in the next few years, which means hopefully you won't need to lay out with a tool like InDesign in landscape, in portraits, in different screen sizes for all the different devices, different aspect ratios. When they do that, it's going to become simpler, but they're not there at the moment, which is why so many of the production workflows are print-centric, InDesign first, and convert that into something on a tablet. Even Adobe's given up on Flash a long time ago. They're actively working on HTML specifications to make this possible, and when it does, it'll be better for all of us. These are just a few examples of HTML-based layouts. So you can actually do dynamic columns with text resize. You can do interactivity using the skills you already have, the same skills you use for your website. So using CSS, JavaScript, the people you have already doing your website can make these layouts. Another example, more of a magazine kind of layout using just JavaScript. And again, all of this will reorient because that's what HTML does. It's a proper reflowable layout language. This is an example about just using text resize. If I was online, I would be able to go to the server and translate it on the fly using a translation service. So again, all of the power you get with HTML and the standards that come around it, you can easily publish to the iPad with that. And then just a few more gimmicks. So this is using Canvas. This is using SVG. If I was online, I could get live Twitter streams and things like that. So you really can easily take your existing skills and publish to the iPad. And a silly little example, you can't see what I'm doing, but it's a silly example of an interactive kids book. In fact, the reason this moves is when we first published the book, Apple rejected the app because anything that's primarily a book should be submitted to iBooks. So we had to make an interactive book, which is why that happens. And here's an example from The Week, which is one of the magazines we've published. So you'll see you can do fairly interactive content in HTML. So our view is you don't want to be a page turner, especially if you have the choice. Of course, if your workflow is PDF first and you have a quick route to market with PDF, it's a good start, but it's definitely not going to be around for a long, long time. And from the technology point of view, the best way to build these is what we call a hybrid app. So on the one extreme, you have a pure native app, the Times of London being a really good example. On the other extreme, you have a pure web app, the FT being the best example of that. But for user experience and tech reasons, we strongly believe a hybrid, which is a native app that takes HTML, is the way forward for at least the next 2 or 3 years. Speed is really important. It's especially on these devices. People are used to having it slick. There's a famous story of someone did a test. They went and downloaded a big magazine, clicked start, got in their car, drove 4 blocks, bought it, drove back, and actually had it before it had downloaded. So you need to make sure your file size is small and it downloads quickly, because people are impatient, they give up quickly. And there's actually a true story about Rupert Murdoch and Steve Jobs giving someone at the Wall Street Journal. Michael's laughing because I'll tell you afterwards, I don't have time for that now. Paywalls are important. It's important to be able to take money in a frictionless way, again, which is why we firmly believe that using Apple's newsstand and subscription service, yes, they take 30%, but 70% of a lot is a whole lot better than 100% of not much. So acquire your existing subscribers as you do, but you'll get a lot of new subscribers and 70% of the money through Apple's subscription service. So unless you Financial Times, Wall Street Journal with a ridiculously healthy subscription business, go through Apple's payment systems. Advertising, again, advertising another big source of revenue. As Richard said, it needs to be engaging, tactile, it needs to work offline, and remember who you are. So a few examples of the kind of ads we've done. Because I'm not online, I can't really show you the videos, but you get the idea. So you can do things like actually book a ticket for a movie within the ad, or choose your phones, control from your server, from your content management system, what inventory actually appears in an ad, change price dynamically, things like that. All of this is HTML. Car configurators, just more than the print. And yeah, another example. Analytics are enormously important. You need to figure out what you're actually measuring. In the web world, it's pretty easy. Someone views a page, it counts, and it's very binary. In this world, it isn't. So if I'm reading it up like this, how long do I have to linger on it before you count it as a view when you give numbers to your advertisers? And a simple decision like that, if you decide half a second's a view versus 2 seconds a view, means your numbers are ridiculously different, and then your ad revenue is ridiculously different. So there's a lot to think about advertising. Lastly, offline. Offline is really important. Even harder than offline is flaky online connections. The vast majority of crashes for all apps on these things is connections that are on, off, on, off, on, off. So if you're a developer, I recommend test it when you're on a train going through lots of tunnels. It's very hard to get right, and you need to test it in bad online conditions or the app will crash. Again, lastly, a shameless plug. We're a new company, a year old. That's our product. The Week is our flagship. The Week UK launched in November. The US launched last month. They were #1 in the UK and the US on newsstand and news. The Week UK is just the #1 paid app in news. So give it a try and ask us any questions if you have them. And that's me for now.
But the first thing I want to disclaim is normally I stand up, I do quite a bit of talking about these things, and I'm always introduced as the tablet development officer or something like that. But the truth is we're just making most of this up as we go along. And in terms of practice, I think that's a really important thing to embrace when you start to design, bring magazines to the iPad. I'm the art director for a photography magazine, the British Journal of Photography. It's quite a small magazine. It's a very niche title that sits within a larger publisher called Incisive. It's probably the smallest magazine that Incisive own. It's a very old magazine, older than me and even older than Richard, which is saying something. It's been around forever. I mean, George Bernard Shaw was one of the writers. If you've ever been a photographic student or indulged in photography seriously at any point, you will have come across our magazine at some point in your life. Now, a couple of years ago, if we were honest, things were getting a bit tight for us, and the weekly magazine that we'd been producing, which is the longest continuous photographic title in the world, we were suffering a bit, and we decided to reinvent it, to rein back, to go to a monthly, but not in a cheap way, in a far more involved way. It's lusciously printed now. But while we were rethinking the print product, we really began more and more to the idea of could we bring this to this tablet device that was rumoured to be coming about. Every month in our publication we have far more imagery than we can ever show. We're limited to 100 pages. We can't suddenly up or have another 50 pages or 200 pages. You know, that way lies madness. When the iPhone came out, it was a real revelation to us. All the suits were very interested in how much money these iPhone apps were making. But from an aesthetic point of view, particularly photography looked gorgeous, even at that small size on an iPhone. Now I'm quite sad, as most people know. I'm really into typography, and a moment of revelation came for me. The font game on the iPhone. Suddenly you'd have hundreds of typefaces rendering beautifully, something that before I'd only ever really experienced in print. Anyway, I came with this. The print redesign went quite successfully. I went to the CEO and said, give us the money. Let us do this iPad thing. The lessons we can learn, we can spin out to the rest of the company. And he went with it. And let's turn that down slightly. Just while I'll show you a bit of it. The app has gone really successful for us. We can bring far more than you can do in print. One of the things, particularly for photography, is the convergence of HDSLR video and photography. We have an awful lot of film and video embedded in. Tactile, you can touch. You've got the 360s. I'll stop it there. The music's going on too much. It's worked very well. Critically, we've got an awful lot of positive feedback, but it's mainly the numbers that have really impressed us and really cheered us up. This is about best practice. Sharing. When we first built the app, we built it as an Adobe product, which I was very happy with, and even at that stage we built sharing in as one of our fundamental concepts. We think if you give the readers for your app the ability to share it with other people, say that they're reading it, it's like a silver bullet. It's the very people you want to be bigging up your brand that are able to do it. We built that in the Adobe model. Unfortunately, it's a camera magazine side of it. The tsunami hit Japan. All the advertising budgets of all our major advertisers were suspended. And during that time, the chaps from Mag Plus came to see us, which I've got to be honest, we only met them out of courtesy first of all. But when they came and showed us their product, it was another eureka moment. It could do many of the things that we'd been struggling to do, and they've worked very closely with us to develop the app. This thing of sharing, by the way, it took us 2 weeks to build the back end to share material within the app. Not that I did any of the building, but I've got chaps that do these kind of things. But with Mag Plus, this has now been built in for us, an automatic sharing thing to be able to email to Twitter. In terms of workflow, it's saved us an awful lot of time and made it far more achievable. We've got impressive figures for how the sharing's gone. I won't drone on about them because I haven't time. Anyway, Mag Plus came to see us on the 12th. We flew out to Stockholm on the 18th. We were that excited about it. I actually missed the flight, but obviously that wasn't my fault. I got there on the 19th. But a chap I worked with, Tom, I'll let him speak for a moment here. Can you hear that?
But you can make the design and but it works slightly differently. I think one of the really key things for us is security. Other workflows is you create pages so that you send it to us, so you wrap them up and send it to us. The whole process of getting the page off the design should use the camera. It's really quite lengthy.
I'm going to cut him short there because I'm running out of time. But just Tom always wears odd socks. I never let the opportunity go by that I don't slag him off for that. But this thing of the Mag Plus device being able to proof really quickly, in terms of workflow, that's invaluable. There's some other software that we've used that we touted around here that you can't do that to. It adds enormously at the end of the day for a big magazine of how much proofing, how much checking you have to do. Liquid layout, Adobe are bigging that up at the moment. We have that at the moment with Mag Plus, the ability to repin, automatically turn. Just one layout will work in both directions. But the best thing from our point of view was the pricing package was far more transparent and a lot more attractive than others that had been offered. Again, this is about best practice. One of the key things we've identified in terms of bringing an iPad bringing a print magazine to iPad is a concept I call workflow, which is you need to identify not the workflow in terms of going from print to from text to print, you know, the kind of sub-in layers and that kind of stuff that's done, but you need to identify someone within the workflow of a magazine that knows what all the material is, what hasn't been put in, what extra there is, what other things are going on, and it's that person you need to empower to make the decisions of how you can reinvent a magazine for the iPad. I'm not going to go on about page turners or PDFs. I think that's it's a dead model. It doesn't give readers anywhere near enough of a good experience. I'm very sad for charts, but I'll save you that one. This is a thing we've done quite a bit of work with MagPlus now, and these are our 6 key areas that we talk about. I'm going to run out of time here. I thought I'd do 10 minutes, but I've waffled too much. You have initial presentation. You initiate a discussion with the staff who work on it. Everyone generally is really keen to do it. It's a fun thing to do, suddenly put your magazine on an iPad. With MagPlus, it appears instantly. I've been in meetings with advertisers where we've changed the advert in front of them, and it's quite a winning little move you can do. I go through this thing about workflow and ownership. Ownership's important. This isn't something that someone else will do for you. You need to do it yourself for it to work. Brainstorming. I have a thing where I'll pull in a magazine, we'll slice it all up with scalpels, have it all over a big table, and reinvent. What would you do if you weren't constricted by paper? What if you weren't constricted by just having one picture, that you can do all the other things, some of the HTML elements that have been brought in. Storyboarding is another big thing for me. I went to a presentation a couple of years ago with David Rowan from Wired. I don't know if you've ever seen him speak. Brilliant speaker, very scary man. Suddenly said, you know, you're dreaming, this is Hollywood. He was talking about the really gorgeous Wired app when it came out. You know, that stuck in my mind. You can't suddenly go out one day dressed as Cecil B. DeMille and think you're a film director. You need to break down your ambitions of what they are. We use storyboarding quite a bit. You know, if someone's going to interview you, do they go with a camera? Do they go with a reporter? Do they go with some audio? What else can you add? What other things can you bring in? From storyboarding, we plan out an issue. Running out of time now, so I'll have to wrap it up here. I just want to talk about advertising. This is one we've done for a camera company called Hasselblad. Look, there's the pinning where it redraws. That's just done once, and it does it all the time. I'm a real sucker for it. I even like the delay. There's some video here. You know, in terms of advertising, apart from you've got to tell people what to do. Don't let anyone guess. It works really well. We call this the stack as it drops down. You can pan back up. This has got an interactive element, which is just a slideshow. As you scroll up through, everything will work that's in it. Anything that you can see, that you can touch will work. This thing of bringing advertisers love this stuff, being able to engage with their target audience a lot better. Again, this is another video. I haven't got time. I'll skip through this kind of stuff. Well, there's some nice things here. Again, I'll skip through that. That's terrible. I was going to show you how we've done a 360. It's one of the things we really struggled about. I had a few pints one night. On my way home, there was a skip, and in the skip was one of those IKEA cheese wheels. I now call it the wheel of love, and that's what we use to make the 360s with. And it's just you have to come up with new solutions. One of the things we do, I haven't got it with me now because I look too sad, is, you know, an iPhone on a Steadicam works brilliantly. You can quite cheaply bring really good-looking content to the iPad. The key thing I've learned though is you've got to really plan out what you're doing. There's so many variables of what can be done. This is the mess that I work with. I'm going to leave it there. The last thing I'll say is, just before the meeting, we hit 100,000 downloads. We're now on 101,000 downloads. For us, the transition to the iPad has really given us a chance to reinvent our publication. I'll leave it there, yeah?
Thanks, Mick. As ever, some important facts and features and figures in there. Now's your chance to ask some questions, folks. So we've got a few pre-prepared ones, but a gentleman at the back there is racing ahead. So, sir?
Hi, I'm David Hartley, Oxford Brookes University. You said that PDF is dead. Will PDF be any more durable for ebooks than you think it'll be for magazines?
John, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think for ebooks, is this on, sorry? Yeah. I think for ebooks, it'll be around longer. The standards are changing as well. EPUB and HTML are converging enormously, and Amazon's actually dropped their old format for an HTML-based format. So I think even for ebooks, they're going to converge. But for novels, you don't really expect interactivity. Arguably, you don't want it. So for that kind of book, it's definitely going to be around for a while.
Mick?
In terms of magazines, I just think the flat PDF experience just isn't good enough. If you get a title you like, and you can have an immersive version of it or the PDF version, I don't think you'll go back to the PDF version. But to be honest, I'm such a sado. If it was a product I liked, I'd look at it on a phone tinily, but why make someone work so hard? I think the writing might be on the wall eventually for that kind of thing.
I think from our point of view as well, we just see that if you want, as mentioned at the start, to make this compelling enough for people to want to buy, because if we're doing this, we all should be doing this from a revenue perspective, not from a give it away point of view, unless you're making a revenue out of advertising. But even in order to do that, you need to make it more compelling. So therefore, if I, as a consumer, reading a book, why would I want to download a digital version unless it's got something different for me? So if you can make that transition, you can make something different in there. You can add in some form of, some sort of interactivity. By the way, this is Mick's BJP, the original edition of BJP here, and this is what was produced with the Wheel of Love. So multiple photos of the side of this Hasselblad camera were taken, dropped into the feature builder on the Mag Plus site, and it kicked it out as HTML. So no coding required at all, basically, but it's in HTML then. But I mean, if you can add in some sort of compelling content like this, that actually meant that for your advertising revenue for this, Mick, you were able to charge specifically for advertising in the iPad edition, yeah, as opposed to just taking an existing PDF. And this brings on one of the questions I wanted to ask the guys. I mean, how do you deal with advertisers, basically? We're seeing from the Bonnier publishing side of things, that perspective, and for that matter from the Mag Plus perspective, there's the question there of, are there any agencies out there that are currently geared up for supplying something that's interactive, either HTML or some form of interactive content? And I don't know, we're seeing there's a bit of a problem, and hence we're starting to have to offer the service as publishers to our end customers. And I think, Mick, you're seeing the same thing, aren't you? I mean, is that, and John?
I think there's some. I mean, so we do a lot of the ads. We work with a creative agency, and they're a digital production house for that kind of thing. For me, the bigger problem is, at the moment, the number of eyeballs on any particular ad is really small in here compared to on the websites. And because all of the container apps are different, you need to produce the ad for the FT, for the Times, for Mag Plus separately. There's a standard that's coming together now around how to produce full bleed advertising for the tablets, and when that's finally in place, as a brand, you can commission an ad once to appear in all the magazines, and then you'll see a lot more of it. And
luckily for us, luckily for us in the States, we're on the ratification board there for the ABC standards and a lot of the advertising conglomerate standards. So therefore, we're starting to affect that. But it is very much more a case of, okay, is there anybody out there that can actually supply this? It's something we need to drive through. I mean, quick show of hands, who's actually a page designer here? Who's actually producing pages in print today? At least some of the right people are in the room. Any advertising agencies in the room that want to own up to it? Obviously not. There's some chagrin looks somewhere in there, I think. But at the end of the day, you're owning up to being an advertising agency? Oh. I've got a question over here. Can we have the microphone? But fundamentally, we do need to drive this through to actually start getting registering the idea that, hang on a minute, this is different from print. You need to be paying more for this because we can give you more. This can link through as an ad to the relevant website for that particular manufacturer. You can click on the products. You can link through either to that manufacturer's transactional site or to their website. There's more you can add in here. Dear lady, yes.
I would like to ask Mick about the relationship between the print edition and the tablet edition. You do still produce a print edition, do you? And are there, are there separate teams working on it? And do you do them quite separately? And what is the flow? And also, how many man hours, once your team is trained, do you spend on each issue? And is it more or less than the print one?
print issue is still going. It's a monthly. It's I don't want to sound smug, but it's doing very well for itself. In terms of the app that we're producing a quarterly. It's a big beast. It's 400 to 600 pages long. We're in intense discussions at the moment about moving that to a monthly, but we're also revisiting the whole idea of going back to a product on the phone as well. When we first looked at it, we weren't happy with the technology that's out there. In terms of time, I think within 2 hours, if you can lay out page in InDesign, I could have you laying out pages straight to an iPad. I wouldn't advise you went to publish with them straight away, but it's not that big of a barrier to entry. All the other skills that you need to bring in is that kind of huge convoluted structure I was showing. You need to bring other people with you and develop other skills. Some of the HTML5 stuff that was getting shown here, that's all new to me. 16 months ago I knew nothing about that. But you know, it's not rocket science. You can teach yourself how to do these things, or get in touch with people that can.
What about Quark? And that's what we use.
Don't move, change.
We've got time for one more question. I think that one was specifically for Mick.
Actually, just the question is that you talked about term page apps being a good route to market, but I'm just wondering if they're marketed effectively, what sort of shelf life are you looking at a term page app before somebody has to actually update it to be something more compelling?
Well, I mean, my view is it's better than nothing, and you get a quick win from it. You can get lots of distribution channels. There are lots of companies. You send the PDF and you're done. But without exception, if you can enhance it, you should. So as soon as you can.
Mick, do you want to?
I kind of agree with that, but if you haven't done it yet, start working on the immersive one now. I've met people that just use going down the PDF route because they can't get their head around some of the thinking you need to do. Start that thinking as early as you can. But for our company, there are titles that will just stay as PDF things. The kind of audience, the kind of subject matters, it's not really worthwhile investing in them at this stage. But anything that's worth destroying a tree for and making squirrels homeless for should be worthwhile rethinking for an iPad.
Yeah, indeed. From our perspective, I mean, I have to say the key thing we're seeing is a lot of people coming to us who have been doing page turners and then saying, hang on a minute, we now want to do something more, bigger, better, etc., etc. A good route, top tip for you guys out there that are looking at this, you need to start differentiating your readers and your consumers' thought processes away from this is what we do, it's the printed version, maybe a monthly, and therefore the this page turning one that we've done is a monthly. So why not choose to do perhaps a quarterly in a more interactive fashion, pitch that as something different, and then migrate people over to that as a migration path to be able to justify and differentiate out. Okay, at the moment I may have a bunch of my readers saying, why do I want to pay for this page turner because it's the same? Tell you what, if we start producing this new version, this interactive version on a quarterly basis, we can charge for that. We can evidently charge for that because you can differentiate out what's in there. You can add more content in, evidently what we've been doing here. So therefore, that would be, I suggest, a good way of getting people migrating from that page turner, which is really just going to be a dying duck really in the end, I believe, personal view, to being on a digital version that you can actually sell alongside a print issue. That's it from us. I think we're done. Thank you for. If you do want to come and talk to myself or Mick, for that matter, we'll be on stand C23, which is just outside, and turn left. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. I hope it's been worthwhile. Thanks to John. Thanks to Mick. John's going to be around as well, so you'll be
I'll be here a bit.
somewhere out the doorway as well. Michael as well, I believe, from there. So come and have a chat with us, and see you later. Thank you very much, folks.